I commit these words to paper, not hoping to find solace, but in the faint, desperate belief that some part of what I have experienced may yet be understood. For I am no longer sure of what is real and what is dream, a distinction once so clear now made murky, polluted by the things I've seen, or rather the things I thought I saw. My nights are consumed by a terrible vision, a town called Evershade. Whether it lies in the forgotten corners of this world or in some other plane entirely, I do not know. But its memory gnaws at me still. The dream, if it was a dream, began innocuously enough. I wandered through a fog-laden town, its narrow streets strangled by the encroaching mist. Evershade, the broken sign had read, though I had never heard the name before, nor do I believe it to exist in any map or record of our known world. The houses there leaned forward like ancient tombstones, dilapidated and sagging under the weight of forgotten years. Every surface was eroded by time. Doors hung from their hinges, windows shattered and empty like gaping eyes. The entire town seemed to breathe an air of forsaken history, yet beneath that stillness there was a presence, watching and waiting. The deeper I ventured, the more unnatural the world around me became. The trees lining the town's edge were unlike any I'd ever seen. Twisted and knotted, they reached upward as if trying to claw free of the earth. Their branches intertwined grotesquely, casting distorted shadows upon the ground, shadows that seemed to move on their own. At the threshold of the forest, I first felt the cold weight of dread pressing upon my chest, a growing certainty that this place was not part of any earthly realm. I ventured into the woods despite the gnawing sense of wrongness that clung to the air. I was driven by something I could not name, pulling me further from the comfort of the world I knew. As I walked deeper into the forest, the trees warped and thickened, bending in ways that defied the natural order. And from the corners of my eyes, I began to see them, shapes moving between the trees. Dark, amorphous figures, always at the edge of my vision, watching silently as I passed. I dared not look at them directly, for even a passing glance filled me with an overwhelming terror that I might see too much. These shapes, these beings were no mere spectres of the imagination. They were alive and sentient, and they followed me with quiet patience as though awaiting some inevitable moment of revelation. I pressed onward, my heart pounding in my chest, though each step felt heavier, as if the ground beneath me resisted my passage. It was then that I stumbled upon the house. At the heart of the woods stood an old, decrepit structure, its sagging roof and ivy-choked walls making it seem more like a part of the forest than a man-made dwelling. Yet there it stood, a relic of some forgotten age, untouched by human hands for what must have been centuries. The door creaked open, with a gust of cold air inviting me inside. The space was dark and empty, save for a single object, a small, ornate box on a table in the centre of the room. The box radiated a strange energy, its surface carved with alien symbols that seemed to pulse with a sickly greenish glow. I approached it, drawn forward, despite the growing dread that filled my mind. My fingers brushed its cold surface, and in that moment, reality itself shifted. The world around me dissolved. I stood not in Evershade, nor in any place I could have recognised. I was surrounded by an impossible landscape, a dimension where the air hummed with some otherworldly presence. The ground beneath my feet writhed, alive with a thick, oily substance that glistened under a dim, fractured sky. Above, black clouds churned, occasionally pierced by streaks of unnatural green lightning, illuminating the horrors below. They were everywhere. The beings I had glimpsed in the woods, now obvious. Their forms were amorphous, their bodies shifting and flowing like smoke, yet their eyes, Those burning, ember-like eyes remained fixed, watching me with a predator. I could feel it. The pull. This was no dream. This was a place between places, a dimension where the rules of reality broke down, and time and matter could be bent and twisted by the wills of these ancient, primordial beings. In that moment, I understood. I had crossed a threshold. I was not supposed to be here. Somehow I tore myself from the paralysis, stumbling backward, away from the horrors that beckoned me. The world around me shimmered and twisted, folding in upon itself as I ran, the whispers growing more insistent. My vision blurred, and just as the ground seemed to collapse beneath me, I awoke, drenched in sweat, gasping for breath in my bed. For days after, I told myself it had all been a dream, a grotesque fantasy conjured by an overworked mind. But the more I tried to convince myself, the more the edges of my reality began to fray. I still heard the whispers at night, the distant echo of that strange language seeping into my thoughts. Worse yet, I began to feel a strange sensation in my body, a coldness starting in my left arm. At first it was subtle, no more than a faint numbness. But as the days passed, I noticed my skin seemed to shift. The texture was not quite right. Paler, almost translucent, with a faint sheen that reminded me of the amorphous creatures I had seen in that twisted dimension. It spread slowly, creeping up toward my shoulder. And now, even as I write this, I can feel the skin shifting, writhing like the viscous substance I saw beneath my feet in that other place. I wonder if what I saw was a dream, or if I truly crossed into some alternate dimension. The distinction may no longer matter, for the truth is undeniable. Whatever I encountered in that otherworldly realm has followed me back. The change is slow, but it is happening. I can see it in the mirror when I dare look, the way my arm has begun to lose its human form, becoming something else. I fear I am no longer entirely myself. And soon, I may not be myself at all.